She came to marry a stranger. But the moment he saw her face, he called her ugly, turned his back, and walked away. Laughter echoed across the station as she stood frozen with nothing but a worn suitcase and a broken heart. She thought her journey had ended before it had even begun, until a lonely frontiersman carrying 2 little girls stepped forward and quietly whispered, "My twins need a mother." No one on that platform could have imagined that those 6 simple words would change 4 lonely lives forever. Stay with me until the very end, because this unforgettable Wild West story proves that true beauty is never seen with the eyes. It is discovered by the heart. And if heartwarming frontier stories like this inspire you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more unforgettable tales from the Old West. The evening train hissed to a stop at Silver Creek Depot as clouds of steam drifted across the wooden platform. Travelers stepped down one after another, greeting loved ones waiting with smiles and warm embraces. Among them was a young woman named Abigail. She carried only a weathered carpet bag and wore a simple blue frontier dress that had faded during weeks of travel. Her face was plain, her hands rough from years of work, and a nervous smile rested upon her lips. Everything she owned was packed inside that single bag. Everything she hoped for stood somewhere on that platform. Months earlier, she had answered an advertisement from a lonely rancher seeking a wife. They had exchanged letters filled with dreams of building a family together. Though neither had ever seen the other, Abigail believed kindness mattered more than beauty. She had crossed hundreds of miles believing she was finally leaving loneliness behind. Near the station clock, a tall rancher scanned the passengers stepping off the train. When his eyes settled on Abigail, disappointment instantly darkened his face. He compared her to the picture he had imagined in his mind instead of the woman standing before him. Without speaking, he shook his head. "You," he muttered. Abigail nodded softly. I'm Abigail." The rancher frowned. "This isn't what I expected." She felt her heart sink. "I wrote exactly who I was, I thought." He interrupted, looking away. "Never mind." The silence became unbearable. Finally, he spoke loudly enough for those nearby to hear. "I can't marry someone like you." A few bystanders exchanged uncomfortable glances. Others whispered among themselves. Someone laughed quietly. Abigail's fingers tightened around the handle of her suitcase as heat rushed to her face. She wanted to disappear. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The rancher shrugged coldly. "Find another life." Without another word, he climbed into his wagon and drove away, leaving the young woman standing alone beside the tracks. The train whistle sounded again. Passengers hurried away. Within minutes the busy platform emptied, but Abigail remained frozen in place. She stared at the departing wagon until tears blurred her vision. She had nowhere to go. No family waited for her. No money remained for another journey. Even the station master looked at her with pity. Across the platform stood a quiet man holding the hands of 2 little girls no older than 6. His name was Caleb Turner. Unlike everyone else, Caleb had watched the entire scene without judgment. His coat was faded. His boots were worn. Years of raising twin daughters alone had carved lines into his weathered face long before his time. Since losing his wife during a harsh winter fever 6 years earlier, every sunrise had begun with cooking breakfast, braiding little hair, tending cattle, fixing fences, and trying his best to be both father and mother. The twins, Emma and Lily, noticed the crying woman before he did. "Daddy," Emma whispered, tugging gently on his sleeve. "That lady's crying." Lily looked up with sad blue eyes. "She's all alone." Caleb remained silent for a long moment. He remembered another lonely face many years ago, his late wife's, when strangers had shown kindness during their hardest days. Without another thought, he removed his hat and walked toward Abigail. She quickly wiped away her tears, embarrassed. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'll leave." Caleb shook his head. "You don't have to." She forced a weak smile. "I don't suppose I have much choice." For a moment he looked at his daughters. The little girls stared back at the lonely woman with innocent curiosity. Then Caleb spoke so softly only Abigail could hear. "My twins need a mother." She looked up in surprise. He continued, "I'm not asking out of pity. I don't understand. You look more hurt than hungry." She swallowed hard. I've been both. Caleb smiled gently. My girls deserve someone kind. She stared into his honest eyes. And I reckon, he said quietly, maybe you deserve a place where someone is glad you came. For the first time that day, Abigail couldn't hold back her tears, not tears of humiliation, but tears of hope. She looked at the two little girls smiling shyly beside their father, and for the first time since stepping off the train, she realized that perhaps God had closed one door, only to open another far more beautiful. She didn't know what awaited her beyond Silver Creek, but as the setting sun bathed the station in golden light, she picked up her worn suitcase and followed the lonely frontiersman and his twins toward a future none of them had expected. The whispers of the crowd faded behind them, but ahead lay a quiet ranch where four lonely hearts were about to discover that family is not chosen by appearances. It is built through kindness, sacrifice, and unconditional love. The journey to Caleb's ranch was quiet, but unlike the lonely silence Abigail had known before, this one felt peaceful. The twin girls rode beside her in the wagon, asking innocent questions that slowly replaced her tears with gentle smiles. By the time they reached the small homestead tucked beneath the mountains, the little cabin no longer seemed lonely. The next morning, Abigail woke before sunrise, baked fresh biscuits, prepared breakfast, and packed lunches before Caleb even stepped outside to feed the horses. She never complained, never expected special treatment, and insisted on earning her place. Day after day, she mended torn clothes, planted a small vegetable garden, read Bible stories to the twins before bed, and filled the once silent cabin with warmth and laughter. Emma and Lily soon stopped calling her a Miss Abigail. One evening, the younger twin shyly reached for her hand and whispered, "May we call you Mama someday?" Abigail's eyes filled with tears as she gently hugged both girls. From the doorway, Caleb watched quietly. He had invited her into his home to help raise his daughters, but he never expected her kindness to heal the emptiness they had all carried for so long. Meanwhile, word spread through Silver Creek that the bride who had been rejected at the station had become the happiest woman on the frontier. Even those who had laughed at her began to admit they had judged her unfairly. But just as happiness began to bloom inside the little ranch house, a familiar wagon rolled into the yard. The very man who had abandoned Abigail at the train station stepped down, having heard about the peaceful life she had built. Looking at the loving family before him, he realized too late that he had thrown away the greatest treasure he would ever be offered. A week later, the rancher who had rejected Abigail rode up to Caleb's cabin. Looking at the happy home, the laughing twins, and the smiling woman he had once humiliated, regret filled his face. "I made a mistake," he admitted. "Come back with me. I can give you a bigger ranch, nicer clothes, and an easier life." Abigail smiled gently and shook her head. "The day you rejected me, you only saw my face. Caleb saw my heart." The man lowered his head, realizing he had lost the greatest blessing of his life. After he rode away, Caleb quietly stepped onto the porch. "I never wanted you to feel obligated to stay," he said softly. Abigail took his hand and smiled through happy tears. "I stayed because this is the first place where I was loved for who I truly am." Just then, Emma and Lily ran outside, wrapped their little arms around Abigail, and cried, "Mama." Caleb's eyes filled with tears as he gently embraced all three of them. By spring, the quiet ranch had become the happiest home in the valley. The woman once mocked as the Hoagley bride became known as the kindest mother in Silver Creek, while Caleb learned that true beauty shines from a loving heart, not a perfect face. Together, they proved that God sometimes closes one door, only to lead us to the family we were always meant to find. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes true beauty is found in kindness, love, and a faithful heart.